If you had to feed your family from your backyard and nothing else, most of what you're growing right now wouldn't keep you alive. These are the 10 crops that actually will. 10. Kale. The nutritional insurance policy. Kale makes the list not because of calories. It has almost none. It makes the list because it fills a gap that every other crop on this list leaves open. Vitamins. A self-sufficient diet built entirely on potatoes, beans, and squash will keep you alive. It will also leave you deficient in vitamins A, C, and K within months. Kale solves that problem. A single cup of raw kale delivers over 100% of your daily vitamin A, over 100% of vitamin C, and nearly 700% of vitamin K. Kale is also one of the hardest crops to kill. It survives frost. It survives heat. It keeps producing leaves through conditions that would end most vegetables. In many climates, kale planted in late summer will produce through the entire winter with minimal protection. A light frost actually improves the flavor by converting starches to sugars. Harvest the outer leaves, and the plant keeps producing from the center for months. One row of kale can supply greens for a family from fall through early spring when almost nothing else in the garden is alive. Low calorie, high vitamin, almost indestructible. That's why it's here. 9. Garlic. The crop that stores itself. Garlic takes up almost no space, requires almost no attention, and stores longer than nearly anything else you can grow. Plant cloves in the fall, mulch them, and forget about them until summer. Garlic grows through winter on its own. Harvest in midsummer, cure it in a dry, shaded area for 2 weeks, and properly cured garlic stores 6 to 8 months at room temperature. Some hardneck varieties store even longer. 1 pound of seed garlic produces 6 to 10 pounds of harvest. You never need to buy seed garlic again after your first year. Just save the largest bulbs from each harvest and replant them. Your seed stock is self-renewing indefinitely. Beyond cooking, garlic has documented antimicrobial properties. In a self-sufficient scenario where a pharmacy isn't an option, garlic becomes more than a flavor ingredient. Plant it once. Replant from your own stock every fall, and you have a permanent supply of a crop that flavors everything, stores for most of the year, and takes up less garden space than a single tomato plant. 8. Carrots and beets. The root cellar staples. Carrots and beets occupy the same slot because they serve the same purpose. Reliable calories and vitamins that store in a root cellar for 3 to 5 months with zero processing. No canning, no dehydrating, no freezing, no electricity. Just pull them from the ground, brush off the dirt, bury them in damp sand in a cool, dark space, and they last through winter. This is how people stored food for centuries before refrigeration existed. Carrots are one of the richest sources of beta-carotene, which your body converts to vitamin A. Beets provide folate, manganese, and iron. Together they cover nutritional ground that potatoes and beans don't. Both crops are direct sow. Plant seeds straight into the ground. Both tolerate cool weather and can be planted early in spring and again in late summer for a fall harvest. Succession planting extends your harvest window across months. In cold climates, carrots can actually be left in the ground under heavy mulch and harvested through winter as needed. The cold converts their starches to sugars, making winter-harvested carrots noticeably sweeter than summer ones. Low maintenance, long storage, no processing required. For a self-sufficient garden, root crops are non-negotiable. 7. Tomatoes. The versatile workhorse. Here's the honest truth about tomatoes. They are low in calories. From a pure survival standpoint, tomatoes rank below almost every other crop on this list. So why are they here? Because no other single crop is more versatile in preservation and cooking. Tomatoes can be water bath canned as sauce, salsa, paste, diced, and whole. They can be dehydrated into tomato powder or sun-dried tomatoes. They can be frozen. They can be fermented. One crop, 6 different preserved products, each serving a different role in your kitchen. A well-managed tomato bed can produce 50 to 100 pounds per season in a relatively small space. Paste varieties like San Marzano and Roma are the workhorses. Meatier, less watery, and far better for canning and sauce making than slicing varieties. Tomatoes are also one of the easiest crops to save seeds from. Let one fruit over-ripen, scoop the seeds, ferment them for a few days, dry them, and you have next year's seed stock for free. Tomatoes won't keep you alive on their own, but a pantry without canned tomatoes is a pantry without flavor. And flavor matters when you're eating potatoes and beans every day for 6 months. 6. Cabbage. The cold weather champion cabbage is the most underrated crop in self-sufficient gardening. A single cabbage head weighs 2 to 5 pounds and stores in a root cellar for 3 to 4 months without any processing. That alone makes it valuable. But cabbage also ferments into sauerkraut, one of the oldest and simplest preservation methods that exists. Shred it, salt it, pack it, wait. Sauerkraut lasts months in cold storage and provides live probiotics and vitamin C through winter when fresh produce is unavailable. Cabbage is cold hardy. It can handle frost. It grows in spring and fall, and in many climates it produces 2 harvests per year. The crop is relatively pest-resistant compared to other brassicas, and a single plant takes up about 2 square feet. Nutritionally, cabbage provides vitamin C, vitamin K, and fiber. Historically, sauerkraut was carried on long sea voyages specifically to prevent scurvy. If it kept sailors alive for months at sea, it will keep your family healthy through a winter without a grocery store. Fresh storage, fermentation, cooked in soups and stews. Cabbage does it all and asks for almost nothing in return. 5. Corn, the calorie-dense grain you can actually grow. Most people think of sweet corn, the kind you eat off the cob in summer. That's not what we're talking about. For self-sufficiency, you grow dent corn or flint corn, grain varieties that dry on the stalk and grind into cornmeal, flour, and hominy. Grain corn is one of the highest calorie producers per square foot of any crop you can grow in a backyard. Let it dry completely on the stalk, harvest the ears, shell the kernels, and store them in airtight containers. Properly dried corn stores for years. You can grind it into cornmeal for bread, tortillas, polenta, and porridge. You can process it into hominy. You can feed it to livestock. Corn is one of the few crops that directly serves both your kitchen and your animals. The Three Sisters method, corn, beans, and squash planted together, is one of the most proven companion planting systems in agricultural history. The corn provides a trellis for beans to climb. The beans fix nitrogen in the soil. The squash shades the ground, retaining moisture and suppressing weeds. 3 crops, 1 bed, no waste. Space is the main limitation. Corn needs to be planted in blocks of at least 4 rows for proper wind pollination. A 10 by 10 foot block is the minimum for reliable kernel development. And never plant sweet corn and grain corn within 250 feet of each other. Cross-pollination ruins both. 4. Sweet potatoes. The nutritional powerhouse sweet potatoes produce more nutrition per square foot than almost anything else you can grow. They're loaded with calories, beta-carotene, vitamin C, potassium, and fiber. A single cup of baked sweet potato delivers over 400% of your daily vitamin A requirement. From a nutritional density standpoint, they outperform regular potatoes in almost every category except total calorie output. Sweet potatoes love heat. They need a long, warm season, roughly 90 to 120 frost-free days. But once established, they produce heavily with minimal input. They're more pest-resistant than regular potatoes and less susceptible to the blight diseases that can wipe out a potato crop overnight. After harvest, sweet potatoes need curing. Store them at 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, with high humidity for about 10 days. This process converts starches to sugars and toughens the skin for storage. After curing, sweet potatoes store for 6 months to a year in a cool, dry space. Here's the self-sufficiency advantage. You never need to buy seed stock again. Each spring, place a sweet potato in water or soil, let it sprout slips, cut those slips, and plant them. 1 sweet potato produces 50 or more slips. Your seed supply is permanently self-renewing at 0 cost. 3. Winter squash. The zero-effort storage crop. Winter squash is the closest thing to free food storage that exists in gardening. Harvest a butternut squash, set it on a shelf in a cool room, and it sits there for 3 to 6 months without any processing whatsoever. No canning, no freezing. No dehydrating. Just a squash on a shelf, waiting to be cooked whenever you need it. Winter squash varieties. Butternut, acorn, spaghetti squash, and Hubbard are calorie-dense, rich in vitamins A and C, and filling. A single butternut squash weighs 2 to 3 pounds and provides multiple meals. The plants are vigorous producers. One healthy hill of butternut squash can produce 10 to 15 fruits. A few hills can fill your pantry with months of stored food from a single planting. Moscata varieties like butternut are more resistant to vine borers and disease than other species. They also store the longest. Some growers report keeping butternut squash for up to a year in proper conditions. Cure winter squash in the sun for about 10 days after harvest to harden the skin before storage. Store in a cool, dry place, not a cold root cellar. Winter squash prefers slightly warmer storage than root crops, around 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Grow it, cure it, set it on a shelf, eat it in January. That's the entire system. 2. Dry beans, the protein foundation without beans. A self-sufficient garden produces plenty of carbohydrates and almost no protein. That's a nutritional dead end. Dry beans, black beans, pinto, kidney, navy, and dozens of other varieties are the primary protein source in any plant-based self-sufficient diet. They also provide iron, folate, potassium, and a significant amount of calories per pound. Growing them is straightforward. Plant seeds directly in the ground after the last frost. Bush varieties need no support. Pole varieties climb any trellis, fence, or cornstalk you give them. Let the pods dry completely on the plant, then harvest, shell, and store. Here's the number that matters. Properly dried beans stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers last 5 to 10 years. Not months, years. That makes beans the longest storing fresh crop on this entire list by a massive margin. One 100-foot row of dry beans produces roughly 25 to 30 pounds of dried beans. At about 1,500 calories per pound, that's 37,500 to 45,000 calories from a single row. Combine that with potatoes, and you have the two pillars of caloric self-sufficiency. Beans also fix nitrogen in the soil through a symbiotic relationship with soil bacteria. Growing beans in your garden literally improves the soil for everything else you plant afterward. They're not just food, they're fertilizer. 1. Potatoes. The king of self-sufficiency. No other crop produces more calories per square foot, with less effort, in less time, than potatoes. A single acre of potatoes can produce over 40,000 pounds of food. You don't need an acre. Even a 10 by 10 foot plot can yield 100 or more pounds in a single season. 1 pound of seed potatoes produces 10 pounds or more of harvest. That ratio is unmatched by any other vegetable. Potatoes grow in almost any soil. They tolerate cool weather. They mature in 65 to 90 days depending on the variety, and they store in a cool, dark space for 4 to 6 months without any processing. No canning, no dehydrating, just a root cellar or a cool basement. From a pure caloric standpoint, potatoes are the crop that will actually keep you fed. They provide carbohydrates, potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B6, and more protein than most people realize. They can be baked, boiled, mashed, fried, roasted, and made into bread and dumplings. The key to long storage is variety selection. Thick-skinned main crop varieties like Russet, Kennebec, and Yukon Gold store far longer than thin-skinned early varieties. Cure them after harvest. Leave them in a dry, dark spot at 45 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 weeks before moving them to cold storage. Some homesteading experts recommend dedicating at least 30% of your total garden space to potatoes if self-sufficiency is the goal. That's how important this single crop is. That's the 10 best crops for self-sufficient living. Grow these, store them properly, and your garden stops being a hobby and starts being a food system